for someone who lives life from a extreme standpoint, right? A Michael Jordan, it's an extreme life, you know, the life you're living. Trump, it's an extreme life. You don't have to be that extreme to win in media, real estate, and politics. It's extreme. Why are you putting yourself through that kind of a life? In bodybuilding, in fame, in celebrity, all of that stuff. What did you have a moment as a kid where it was like the most painful moment that impacted you for the rest of your life? Like, was there a moment?
No, there wasn't any like one moment. I think I got a lack of attention as a kid, and the fame thing was more of a social experiment, and it was more just like, I'm gonna do a bucket list of all the things that I want to do, because I made a bunch of money and kind of had a lot of time, and I was, overplaying the poker. So, and Instagram was kind of like a new thing, and social media, and also it was a little bit of a fuck you to the ex-girlfriend. It was like kind of like the perfect storm of just like, let's see what we can do with this. And I also knew that it would correlate to getting more girls too, because it was kind of like a little bit of a dating app, if we're being honest. And so, yeah, I just kind of like went down the road a little bit, and then we went down the road a lot a bit, and then it was kind of like spiraled out of control. And I think the reason why it did well is because it was just stuff I wanted to do, like I just wanted to do all those things. And so when I got the time and I got the money to do them, I just kind of, went through the bucket list and checked all the boxes, and we went all the way down the road to hedonism and documented it, so
to a level that, at one point it was like a 18-year-old boy's dream to say, man, I'm vicariously living through what you're doing with your life, all the crazy stuff that you were doing. So it wasn't anything where as a kid you're like, you know what, I'm going to prove these guys wrong. I'm going to prove this guy that I'm going to be somebody. This, what I went through, the world's going to know who I am and what I'm doing.
No, it wasn't so much that. I mean, there is always like an element of insecurity of like, wanting to show people up, right? Or, prove people wrong. There's always going to be some of that. But I think for me, I just really kind of like wanted to see how far I could take it, because I had started doing the Instagram a little bit, and then it was almost like treated like a video game. It was like, how high can we get the score? And it was also like in conjunction with, I just made, $50-60 million that year playing poker, and things were going good, and I was making money left, right, and center, like way faster than I could spend it. And I don't know, they had a good synergy. It was like, I wanted to do all these things, and those were also the things that like a lot of other guys wanted to do, and they're responding really positively to that. So it was very interesting to the audience. And I was also kind of like, fuck it. Like I didn't have a job. Like I didn't care what my parents thought. I just didn't give a shit what anybody had to say. So I was able to like really just put it out there raw in a way that other people, I don't think I've ever done before. And I think, and in the captions too, just like the way I would caption things. I mean, it was just like, fuck it, this is what I'm going to say, and, see what happens. It's kind of like throwing a grenade in the toilet. It's going to be interesting. We don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be interesting to watch, right.
That's like, even with the wedding picture, you're like, I'm finally doing it, right? Or something like everybody say, oh my God, he's married. But going back to it, I'm Armenian, you're Armenian, your father's Armenian, your mom is...
She's Norwegian and Swiss. I'm a bit of a mutt.
Got it. So growing up with an Armenian dad, was he a typical Armenian dad? Like, hey, when you and your brother, when you guys grow up, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, or did he kind of leave you guys alone?
I would say my dad was anything but typical of anything. He was a very strange, like unique person, and he was not around very much, and he was really, really focused on business. And when he was around, it was for sports, and he was like basically a drill instructor. I mean, it was like hardcore to the door, 2 hours a day practice every day, including Sundays. And if we lost a game, it was like no talking on the way home. It was like really like, serious. And this is when we were like 7 years old. So I would say he didn't have that much of a direct impact in the sense of like him teaching me things or me following his path. I would say he had a pretty strong indirect impact in the sense that I didn't get a lot of attention from him. And so I think a part of the social media stuff was like, some validation and some attention seeking and whatever. But yeah, like I said, I think it was like a perfect storm of just like running this experiment, having all that fucking money, having all that time, not having anybody to answer to, and at the time when social media was kind of new too. So nobody had done that before.
Yeah, because when I go back and I see you, and I go back and I'm studying your dad, and I'm like, okay, this guy, he went to what, Harvard? He went to Stanford. I think he met his your mom, I think at Stanford, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was also a military guy. He got a bunch of awards. You know, he was, but even that profile of a guy is super competitive.
Yeah.
You don't get to go to Stanford and Harvard and do what you do in the military. Where did the drive come with him? Like, who was your grandfather? Is there a lineage of somebody that from the top is just challenging, driving, pushing, that keeps getting passed down to top?
It's an interesting question. I didn't really know my grandfather that well, but from the moment I remember my father, he was like an ultra competitive guy, like absurdly competitive, to the point where, like, if he lost in a family tennis game, it was like he was gonna maybe break his racket or blame my mom. I mean, it was like insanely competitive. You know, like 6 years, like he sued the Little League. You know what I mean? Like he was a maniac. So
he sued the Little. Why did he sue the Little?
It was some little thing, like they were doing a fundraiser or something, and I guess they didn't raise the. He said he would match it if they raised a certain amount, and they raised like a little less than that amount, and then they basically said that he welched, and so he sued them for slander. I don't know. It was like a whole crazy thing. But the point is, like, he was not normal. He was a nut, and he was super competitive. Like I said, I don't know where he got it from, but he was like that since I've known him, and he's like that now.
Your brother, is he also super competitive? Or
yeah.
He's also competitive. Were you guys competitive as brothers growing up?
For sure.
And what's the age difference?
2.25 years.
2.25. So 2 years and 3 months. Okay. Yeah. Now you got to realize I'm asking this for different reasons. I have 4 kids. And I have 2 boys. My oldest are 2 boys and 2 girls, and they're very competitive. And their father's very competitive, and it's constantly driving, right? So you kind of, but you and your brother actually have a good relationship together, right? You guys.
We do now, yeah. We fought a lot when we were younger. I think it's natural. Like 2 kids that similar age, you're just always kind of gonna be like back and forth.
When your pops was in financial services, was there ever where you're like, I'm gonna get into it as well? I'm gonna go do buying companies and doing all the stuff that he's doing, or no?
So he was doing a lot of that. And then, you know, because by the time I think it was when I was like 11, he ended up going to jail. So he got indicted for securities fraud or whatever that was. And I think from that point on, he was almost like spending the majority of his time just like battling the government, trying to fight it on appeal, like all that stuff. So the bulk of like his like work was done when I was younger. So then after that, it was more just legal battles.
Younger is as in how old? Younger, like
before 11. So I think when I was 11.
Got it.
Yeah, that's when he
went. 91. So when did he go away?
I believe it was like 89, 90-ish, and it was for a year. And then when he got out, I had another couple years with them, and then I lived with my uncle for a year. I went to military school for a year. Then we went to Utah, and I got thrown in jail. It was like a whole thing.
That's a lot of chaos, though. That's a pretty chaotic environment.
5 schools in 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. 5 schools in 4. So high school, 16 years old. Who were you? Were you still a playboy at 16, or were you more the athlete, the shy kid?
I played baseball. I was good at baseball. I was starting pitcher as a freshman on the varsity team. So I was good at baseball, but I wasn't a stud by any means. I wasn't getting a lot of girls. I think I lost my virginity at 13 to a Mexican hooker. So it was like nothing really to brag about there.
Did you go to Mexico?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So I was in boarding school at the time.
Revolution Avenue or whatever that place is in TJ?
I don't remember. No, it wasn't TJ. It was Mexico City. So I was in boarding school, military boarding school. And I hated my parents at the time for sending me there. And my roommate, he said, you want to come home with me for Thanksgiving? And I was like, where do you live? He's like, Mexico. I was like, well, fucking Mexico. It's kind of shitty. Like, what the fuck? He's like, no, man. Like, we got our own house and we got a limousine. And I'm like, can we, you got any guns? Like, can we buy a gun? He's like, no, but we can buy dynamite.
How old are you at this time? 13?
13, yeah.
And you're interested in guns at 13?
Oh, I was like 6. I got my first gun.
No, like a real, because of Pops? Was he fully into it? Or?
No, my mom's side. So my grandfather was like real big hunter, all into guns. My dad, it's actually the first gun that my dad gave me was an M16 because it's the only gun he knew from Vietnam. And that was the gun that got me thrown in jail when they found it in my car.
How old were you?
17 when I got thrown in jail for it.
And because what? You took it to school with you or you had it in your car?
Yes, I had it. It was technically considered school grounds because the parking lot, I guess, was considered part of the school, even though it was like a mile away. So it was basically the same in their eyes as me having it in the locker. So I got like charged, and this was like right after Columbine or whatever that fucking school shooting was. So it was not good. So I did like 3 weeks in jail. Dad kind of came in and bailed me out. And then I got kicked out of the state of Utah. And then after that, I went in the military. So
when was the military? You were 13 years old when your dad sent you to boarding school?
yeah,
And how was that experience?
it was pretty shitty. You know, that was like, it was mostly, I think it was all guys.
Where was it at?
It was in St. Pete, Admiral Farragut.
Got it. You know, when I was at Harvard at this OPM program, Owner President Management Program, it's like a 3-week executive program that you go to, and they have 144 different CEOs from 44 countries. And it could range from a guy running a $11 billion company, range to a guy doing $22 million a year. But the minimum was you had to be above $10 million a year in top line revenue to go to it. My classmate, the guy that was staying in our, whatever you want to call it, rooms, the campus that we had, he was from Lagos. He was worth a couple $100 million. I said, so where does your fire come from to be worth a couple $100 million? And all of a sudden, we're having this late night conversations at dinner. He gets emotional. I said, brother, I just asked you a basic question. Why, what happened to you? He said, my dad told me I needed to go to boarding school to be a man. And for 3 years when I was gone, all I asked myself is, how could a father be away from his son that he loved so much for 3 years? I told myself, if you send me away to be not seeing my own dad for 3 years, you will never see me ever again. And he never came back.
Wow.
The guy went and made a couple $100 million, and everything to him was his dad. He's like, watch what I'm going to do to you. You don't want me to be around. Did that do anything to you, or no? Were you at boarding school like, how come you don't want me to be around you? I love you. You're my dad. You're my family. I want to be. Did you have that kind of a feeling, or not really?
Well, I got kicked out of 2 schools in 7th grade. So I got kicked out of the school in Florida, and then my dad sent me to live with my uncle in Minnesota, and then I got kicked out of that school. And then I think they were just kind of like, fed up with it. But I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. I was kind of like, he was just always all business. And it's funny, man, like some of that stuff, like you said, like that was that guy's drive, that was his passions. It's kind of like at the time, you probably thought that was a really shitty thing, but had not been for that, maybe he wouldn't have gone out and made 2-3.
So I'm asking the question. Because for people to be able to, the whole concept of winning, you have to be able to handle criticism, being misunderstood, hated, controversy, conflict, the heat, the constant chaos. And typically the guys that can handle that well weren't trained when they became successful. They were trained on how to be in a chaotic environment when they were kids.
Yeah.
And then later on, they're like, listen, you think this is painful? You have no clue what I experienced when I was 11 years old. That's where the real pain comes from. For me, living in Iran, you go through a war, you see what's going on, 10 and a half years living in Iran. Later on in life, you're like, yeah, this is COVID, guys, relax. It's not what we went through in Iran. But that's why I was asking a question for you.
Yeah, I think the biggest disservice that, a parent can do is to give the kid too cushy of an upbringing, honestly. Like, I think there's almost no upside from it. I mean, I know it's good. Like, you want to, give your kids a good life and everything, but eventually they have to leave the nest, So unless they're coming out with a trust fund or you're, going to support them, it's kind of like they're going from here to here. It's just, it's tough. I mean, if I were to plot, my life path, I would always want to go from the bottom and a slow rise up. And so it's tough because you want to give your kids a great life and you want to give them all the things that they ask for. But sometimes, you're doing them a disservice. And sometimes, like your friend, I mean, dad was a shitty dad and it helped him. I mean, so it's kind of...
That was his driver. Like,
right?
He was not going to stop.
So I'm convinced the future looks bright, and we want 1 million people to wear the Your Future Looks Bright. The USA hats, last time we had, it sold out like this. They're officially back, the USA hats. If you want them, order them ASAP. If your entire family loves America and you want to sport it for the rest of the year, so indirectly, when you nowadays people are like, well, when you have an American flag in the house, what are you really saying politically? Which way do you lean? It means I love America. You know what people think when you wear a USA hat and you're walking around and on the side it says future looks bright? You're making a statement when you wear this. And by the way, brand spanking new limited gear being dropped here. This will go out in no time. I wear these flip-flops now because when you have Jesus feet like I do, you have to wear flip-flops that are comfortable. And these are the most comfortable flip-flops. It's got the gel in it and a little lift here when you wear this. It's ridiculous.
Feels good.
Future looks bright, American flag. Wear them during the summer. Wear them while you're walking out. Wear them while you're walking your dogs at the house with the VT logo on it. This is limited supply. First come, first serve. Some sizes will probably be gone. Go to VT Merch and order it. And by the way, for those of you that are getting the VT gear, Post the pictures all over the place. We see you. Can we show some of these? Look at this one here. Pink VT hat. Go to the next one, Rob, if you can.
I know her.
This is Nick Moore, who's an NFL player for the Baltimore Ravens there. If you can zoom in.
he at?
Zoom in right there. That's him. Look what he's wearing to the left.
wow.
Freaking walking in with a
Dude, that
future
is
looks
so
bright hat.
sick.
What a stud. Go to the left one, Rob. That's him. That's another one with
Nice.
the military one. Good for you with the beard. Another one sporting it. Keep going, Rob. We got hundreds of these. Brian McClain, keep going. Another one. These were unique ones that we had. Keep going.
Nice.
Keep going. Baby girl, keep going.
She's
Keep
so
going.
adorable.
Keep going, Rob. Keep going. Keep going. Anyways, we got a bunch of these here. Gang, buy the gear, sport it, let the world know you believe the future looks bright, especially if you represent the brand. I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful for you. I love the fact that we got confident, strong people who believe in debate, discourse, that want to represent the freedom and different values and principles that we believe in. We love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to v2merch.com, place your order.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.